Vaush and Charlie Kirk had a debate. They had it on Tim Pool's show. It was really interesting. It was interesting. It was fun. Got a couple portions of it that I want to show you here. I had fun debating Charlie Kirk back in 2019 at Politicon. I know that Vaush broke that down a little bit, and it went well. I like it. I went back and watched some portions of it as well, and it's sort of exactly like I thought it was. Charlie talks too much and loses the crowd at times. And my main theme of the debate was basically to point out how I'm more than willing to critique people who are on my side if I think they actually did something wrong, and I do that a number of times. But one of the themes with Charlie is that I found he, under no circumstance, would he critique Donald Trump. No matter what the criticism was, he would immediately play defense. And so, I was not too difficult to point out for even maybe the most stubborn viewers that this guy's kind of acting like a partisan hack. Now, he's a nice dude off stage. Nice guy. Totally got along with him just fine. But when he was on stage and he was making those arguments, and it wasn't too hard to poke holes in the arguments. And it looks like Vaush found the same thing here. So they're going to get into it on vaccines, and it doesn't go well for Charlie.
Yeah, look, I'm not getting the vaccine, so I'm part of the 100 million people that are unvaccinated. And it's an experimental vaccine. The FDA and CDC has said that in January. It's questionably effective. Lindsey Graham just came down with COVID. You had a ship in the United Kingdom, 100% vaccinated ship that came down with COVID. It's more like a treatment than a vaccine. I'll leave that conversation to Dr. Brett Weinstein and the people that really understand how that works. But yeah, this is medical apartheid. This is trying to create a two-tiered system where if you don't make the proper medical decisions, you're not able to go to Broadway shows or go into restaurants, even when the efficacy of this vaccine is questionable at best. We see that in Israel, an 85% vaccinated country that's about to lock down again. And most of the new cases are from vaccinated patients, not unvaccinated patients in Israel.
Well, a couple of points on this. First of all, it's experimental in the sense that there was an expedited process for its release, but there have been full and extensive studies taken on the safety and effectiveness of these vaccines. The reason why the FDA study hasn't been finished, the reason why it hasn't been fully vetted, isn't because they're looking for long-term health effects. It's because they're determining the extent to which it protects you over a long period of time. Ergo, the fact of the matter is, by all available data, this is undeniably much safer to get the vaccine. I mean, by orders of magnitude.
Let me ask you a question.
Well, wait, a couple of things, because you said a few things there. There are some instances where areas have more people being infected if they're already vaccinated. But if you take a look at this is like data mining. If you take a look at the broader statistics, especially here in America, the number of people who have gotten breakthrough cases is something like 0.003% of people who have been vaccinated. You can take a look at the numbers. Where is this new wave exploding? It's in the unvaccinated. In spite of the fact that fewer and fewer people are remaining unvaccinated, the vaccinated stay relatively healthy. And not only do they get infected way less often, they also suffer far fewer severe symptoms. Their hospitalization rates have plummeted, and their deaths are incredibly low compared to people who are unvaccinated. This is by all means an effective vaccine.
What's your opinion of Johnson & Johnson, the FDA saying that it might cause a rare nerve disease?
That's something that, first of all, when you take a look at that, you have to recognize that even if that was the case.
Which the FDA says it is.
Right. Well, they're looking into it, of course.
They have issued an official warning that it could issue a rare nerve disease. That's a big deal.
Could issue, of course. They're looking into it. And that is something to look into and to be concerned about.
What's your opinion of VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System?
Hold on.
I'm just curious, because
let's do the Guillain-Barré syndrome, though. I think you want to...
Yeah, so of course, stuff like that can happen. Now, even if that claim is the case, it would remain the fact that unless the extent of that potential nerve damage is just apocalyptically severe, that the effects of getting COVID would still be far, far worse than the potential side effects of that vaccine. However, if you were to say, let's say worst case, Johnson & Johnson, it's not viable, that gets pulled, we see what the consequences are, that doesn't really speak against the greater viability of the vaccines. I got Pfizer, for example. We're talking hundreds of millions of people who have either been protected against the vaccine in part, or if they get it, against the virus, or if they get it, their effects, their symptoms are much, much, much more manageable.
So I just want to play into the irony here that I'm the one criticizing the pharmaceutical companies and you're the one defending. I just think I think it's delicious.
Hold on. That's an extremely dishonest talking point.
Well, you're peddling the Pfizer vaccine. You're saying it's so effective. So many people have taken it. And I'm the one saying, hold on, maybe AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer.
Let's talk about the points he's made. And
no, I was just enjoying the irony.
Well, the thing is, it's not really like irony if you understand the issue at hand. See, my praise doesn't go to the pharmaceutical companies or their CEOs. It goes to the tireless workers who spend months and months and months developing these vaccines.
Who's getting rich from this vaccine.
Well, hold on. Have I at any point praised the distribution or profiteering system?
Who do you think gets rich
Pfizer?
from vaccine mandates?
This is,
the workers or the Pfizer CEO?
Nobody's talking about who gets rich. This is a toothless.
Isn't that your whole
hold on.
shtick?
This is a toothless critique that you could.
Let's try and go back and forth.
This is a toothless critique that you could apply to literally anything that you don't like. Everything in this country is manufactured to the profit of
but
CEOs.
we don't mandate it and say you can't go to restaurants if you don't get one of four major
if
pharmaceutical medicines.
wait, I just want to say, if that's your criticism,
that's one of many.
Then you should. So if that's the criticism you want to focus on, I'm in favor of nationalizing the pharmaceutical industry. I'm willing to take it that far. But whether or not that's on the table, and I can't just make that happen, when we're talking strictly about the effectiveness of the vaccine, it seems to be effective. It's not a praise of the capitalist industry behind it.
No, I was just enjoying the irony. That's
it's
all.
not irony.
Charlie went for the cheap shot there, and it didn't work out. I mean, listen, it's so obvious to point this out, but Vaush is of the opinion, like any reasonable person, that the evidence and the data shows the vaccine is phenomenally effective. And it's the case, he would also nationalize Big Pharma, by the way, based. That's a position that I've advocated for, and I don't know if I've ever seen anybody else advocate for it who's, some sort of left content creator, so that's awesome. I'm glad that he said that. And also, he obviously would be in favor of, raising taxes on the CEOs of these companies, and he's in favor of basically making them worker-owned co-ops, democratic companies. So you can both say, I'm going to criticize the structure of the corporations within this capitalist context, and also the vaccines work. It's not like, that's such a simple concept, it's amazing it has to even be explained. But it's like saying, yeah, antibiotics work, and also the profiteering corporations that make the antibiotics, the nature of those companies should be changed. And it should either be democratically owned, so it should be worker-owned co-ops. You should have maybe worker to CEO pay ratio rules that you can't go above 10-1 or whatever, pick the arbitrary line that you want, or you need to steeply raise taxes on the CEOs, the executives of these companies. Again, that's so simple, but he tries to conflate everything, and Charlie Kirk does, and make it like, well, if you're saying the vaccine works, well, then you're obviously, generally speaking, a shill for big pharma and corporations. You just don't go for the cheap shot like that, because that cheap shot is incredibly silly. Like, both of those things can be true at the same time. Again, I find that obvious. It's amazing. It needs to be said. But when you're in the debate about vaccines and you're sort of getting schooled, it's easier to just shift the conversation to, well, I guess you love Big Pharma then, bro. I guess you just love Big Pharma and you're a shill for Big Pharma and the CEOs. Okay, so, but let's get into the conversation about vaccines, because that's even more interesting to me. The fact of the matter is, guys, this is now a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's what all the numbers are showing. How many times have we seen headlines that basically say, like, 99.9% of the people who died in the hospital in whatever state it was, Maryland or some shit, were unvaccinated. So if you're vaccinated, you're not dying from the virus. It's just not happening. It's when you look at the original studies, the original trials on all of the vaccines. Here's an amazing fact that a lot of you guys might not know. Again, this is one of those things where I feel like it should be common knowledge, but it's just not, because the media doesn't do a great job getting this stuff out there. But in the original trials for all of the vaccines, for Pfizer, for Moderna, for AstraZeneca, for Johnson & Johnson, and there's even others, if you got the vaccine in the trials, not a single person who got the vaccine was hospitalized or died. Not a single person who got the vaccine was hospitalized or died. And so they have these bullshit numbers that the media cites all the time of how effective the vaccines are. And for example, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the big number was, it's only 66% effective. What they're not telling you is that that number is total bullshit, because that just means 66% effective against getting the virus. What they don't tell you is that if you got the vaccine and then you get the virus, you're overwhelmingly likely to be asymptomatic, which means the vaccine is working, have the sniffles, which means the vaccine is working, or even have light to moderate symptoms, which means the vaccine is working. So the most important number is how much does it protect against hospitalization and death? And even at this late date with all the new variants, there's nothing that's less effective than like 95%. So I just want everybody to focus on the number that matters. Hospitalizations and deaths, so severe illness and death. And all of the vaccines are well over 90% effective against preventing that. So they just work. Now, Charlie Kirk brings up Lindsey Graham there and says Lindsey Graham was vaccinated and Lindsey Graham had, a breakthrough case. So in other words, he was vaccinated and he got COVID. Why don't you say the rest of what Lindsey Graham said? Lindsey Graham said, I'm absolutely positive that the reason why my symptoms are so mild and why I'm getting away with this is because I got the vaccine. So in other words, he could have been one of those people who, if he didn't get the vaccine and he got the illness, he would have been violently sick, maybe severely ill, maybe in the hospital, maybe he would have died. Maybe he would have died. But since he got the vaccine, he's like, look, I feel fine. That's what he said. I feel fine. Now, I don't know. Does he have the sniffles now? Does he have like a cold? Maybe. But he was like, I know the vaccine helped me. I know the vaccine helped me. So, weird. He doesn't tell you that part of what Lindsey Graham said, but he does say, he has a breakthrough case. So, again, this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. What the data in the U.S. shows is that everybody who's being hospitalized, everybody who's dying is unvaccinated. Now, to get to because this is the other thing they do, take the anecdotal cases or the fringe cases and try to use that, like Charlie Kirk described there. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine causes a rare nerve disease. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine causes a rare nerve disease. So first of all, it's hilarious that none of them who are bringing this up can even pronounce the name of the illness, which should tell you something about their level of understanding of it. It's pronounced Guillain-Barré. That's how it's pronounced. And every time they say it, it's like they come up with, a different way of saying it. You know how many cases there's been of Guillain-Barré after people have gotten that vaccine? 100 cases. You know how many people have gotten that vaccine? 12 million. You do the math on that. To say it causes this, that is a massive overstatement. This is the same thing that they do with deaths. They say, of the people who've gotten the vaccine, thousands have died. The vaccine's been given to like over 170 million people. Some people are just going to die out of 170 million. They're just going to die, and it's going to have nothing to do with the vaccine. If you vaccinate somebody who's 92 years old and they die a month later, maybe they're dying because they're 92 fucking years old and it's got nothing to do with the vaccine. This is basic causation correlation shit. How do you not understand this? They attribute all those deaths to the vaccine as if the vaccine is doing it. So Guillain-Barré, 100 people out of 12 million. Now, the other thing is the blood clots that they talked about, where they temporarily froze the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Guys, 15 cases of the blood clots. 15 cases out of 12 million shots. Birth control is like 1 in 10,000 or something like that for blood clots. And that's still on the market, perfectly legal, wasn't frozen. So this is way less likely, and they temporarily froze it, but they brought it back. It was the right thing to bring it back. It probably wasn't even the right thing to freeze it in the first place. So just to put this in perspective for you, and as Vaush pointed this out correctly in the moment, even if I grant you the thing about Guillain-Barré, even if I grant you the thing about blood clots, that's 100 cases and 15 cases. That's a total of 115. One person died from Guillain-Barré. 7 died from the blood clots. So a total of 8 deaths. 8 deaths. So even if I grant you everything about the vaccine, oh my God, it's so terrible. Oh my God, it might have these side effects in 0.0001% of cases. How many people died? What's the 7-day average on August 3rd in America? 414 deaths. The 7-day average on August 3rd, 414 deaths. So you do the math on that. How long has the vaccine been out? 12 million people have taken it. 8 deaths. Maybe from side effects. Maybe not even from the side effects. Maybe from side effects. 8 deaths over the course of months and months and months. 1 week, 414 deaths with COVID. You do the math on which thing is more dangerous. This is the point, guys. It isn't a debate. This isn't a debate. And it's really annoying to me when people start debating shit that's not debatable. You have to follow the science. You have to follow the evidence. Now, yes, there are plenty of people like Dr. Fauci got a million things wrong. And when he got shit wrong, it's because he wasn't following the science, because he was fucking lying, or he was bullshitting, or he was just incorrect. That doesn't mean science is wrong. It means Dr. Fauci wasn't doing well with the science, like when he said masks don't work, which he admitted was a lie later on, because he said, oh, I was just saying that because I wanted the frontline workers to keep the masks, and we thought that maybe people would get all the masks and the frontline workers wouldn't have access to them. So that's why I said that. So you lied. You have to follow the science, follow the evidence, follow the research, but you don't have to take individual people and turn them into demigods or idolize them. No, you think for yourself and do it based on the research. Polio was eradicated. Smallpox was eradicated. There's a number of vaccines that have saved countless lives. This vaccine is one of the few things I would give Trump credit for basically rushing this thing. And all the evidence to this point shows it's working, and it's working phenomenally well. And that goes for all of them. They're different vaccines. The mRNA vaccine is the Pfizer and the Moderna. Then the AstraZeneca is similar to the Johnson & Johnson. The Johnson & Johnson is done with a human adenovirus, which is like a cold virus that they made to mimic COVID-19. And so that's why that works. And in the case of AstraZeneca, I believe it's actually a chimpanzee adenovirus, which does the same thing. So they work, man. They work. And the numbers show that. The numbers prove that over and over and over. I can't tell you how many things we've gone over on this show that lay that out. So, I mean, this is just Vaush running circles around Charlie Kirk. And my sympathy goes out to Vaush here for this reason. Again, he probably feels the same way as I do about this. I hate debating things that I don't think are debatable. It's really annoying. And he's got to fend off all these crazy, viewpoints on the vaccine. And it's tough. It's tough to fight against misinformation that's that thick and deep. And Charlie Kirk clearly has been going down a rabbit hole on this stuff, and he's as wrong can be. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.